Welcome to Playful Beginnings, a podcast about the magic of play therapy for therapists, students, and anyone interested. In our podcast, we'll explore the deeper understanding of play therapy and the skills we use when working with children.
We hope to help you understand the why behind what we do and how it helps kids heal and grow. I'm Dr. Kristie Opiola, a working play therapist and university professor in North Carolina.
I'm Dr. Maggie Parker, a play therapist and professor in DC.
Don't forget to like and subscribe to our podcast, as well as go on over on the playtherapyspace.com and put your information so we can keep you updated on the things that we're doing here.
Thanks, guys, for listening, and thanks for being here. Last time we talked about chaos, and I thought we could give examples of what we've seen in our playroom. I wonder, would it be helpful to talk about some of the experiences?
Yeah, do you want to share an example of a time where the child appeared to be chaotic?
Mm-hmm.
Or would that even look for a session for you? Because I think we talk about it, everyone understands it, but what does it actually maybe look in session?
So I've had two that really stand out. And the first one I think is kind of what I think of when I think of typical chaos, right? Where it's every toy throughout the whole 45 minutes is thrown, and it's just throwing stuff and up and over and body movement. And so really reflecting and trying to understand the meaning of that. And a lot of times, at least with this particular child, it felt demonstrating the chaos inside themselves and what that was for them. And also mastery. There was a lot of, look, you're capable of doing this. You're excited that you were able to do that. It's important for you to do this. The other one that as we were talking, that was chaos because it was unpredictable. So I had a child that really struggled in relationship and really did not want to be in this space with me, and struggled in spaces with other adults and other children, really just anybody. And there was a lot of working really hard to push me away, whether that be through hurting me or tying me up, or I very rarely set the ultimate limit. And I set the ultimate limit. I ended the session after, and I set the limit first. I wasn't trying to be patronizing, but it also, so this child would try very often in session to hurt me. Ooh. And, I'm like, I'm not for hurting. You're trying to figure out ways in which you can make this stop. You don't want me to keep going. This makes you feel uncomfortable. But they threw sand at my face and it got in my eyes. And I knew in that moment, I am angry, right? This is impacting the relationship. And so I had to really calm myself down. I mean, that is not for doing. People aren't for hurting, and sand is not for throwing. If you choose to continue to do that, you choose to leave the space. Now, I think that this child really wanted out of the space. So I don't think I responded probably as I should have. Maybe I shouldn't have put that limit, but I knew in that moment the relationship was in jeopardy. And this is also a child, I've never had this happen before. They ran out of the room. They ran out of the building, and they ran into the parking lot, which is right near a pretty large streets. And so then I'm talking to them and setting limits, and then I get them back upstairs and they lock me out of the office, and then they lock me out of my room.
Wow.
Yeah. And so trying to remain calm, recognizing, okay, where's my fear right now? I think my fear is for this child's safety. And then what's going on for me, and then kind of reflecting that back, and what is this child trying to tell me, and trying. But that was probably the client that I needed the most consultation on, because there was it seemed a fear of closeness and very chaotic of how this child was experiencing relationships.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I didn't relational chaos, where it's really, to me, it often mimics maybe some of their attachment styles. As relationships feel chaotic to the kid, that shows up in space with us. Yeah. I was, as we were talking, so if you heard a bing behind me, I was downloading an image onto the computer so I could share what maybe chaos might look like in the playroom.
Oh yeah.
Messy chaos.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because I've had both the chaos and probably one that's most poignant to me is a kid who felt their world was so chaotic they needed to make the play space chaotic even to be able to function, right? Which feels overwhelming to us, but that felt pretty normal for this kiddo that and they could only play when the playroom became really chaotic. And so they really struggled to engage with any materials until they swiped every shelf. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, all the puppets, tipped over the dollhouse, right? Took every item off the shelf,
All of the food.
destroyed the art area. Paper was flying. It really was, oh my gosh, moment as a play therapist. And once everything was kind of in turmoil and topsy-turvy, they literally sat down and played so focused in the environment, which was almost a contradiction to what and how I assumed. Kind of looked at Tasmanian devil came through, but stayed.
Mm-hmm.
Once the Tasmanian devil came through, right, everything was okay. And if you don't know the term Tasmanian devil, I'm not calling this kid a devil. It was actually a cartoon character. It's
Yeah.
probably dating ourselves,
It looks
but
like a
he would
tornado.
a tornado. They would come through and whirl through, and everything would be flying in the air and the you know destruction in its path. Um, and then the child could sit and actually play, which was really confusing initially because I'm, what the heck is going on? And then as I could sit and really kind of process it, oh, this is, they need
Mm-hmm.
this turmoil to even feel settled in the session, right? Um, which is kind of fascinating to me.
Mm-hmm. And so as you kept working with them, did the chaos continue or was there ever
Chaos
yeah.
continued throughout all of our sessions, but what started to slowly happen is not every shelf, not all
Oh
the
yeah.
puppets. So some things got left on the shelves, right? And so I knew they were ready to be done with therapy when it was minimal destruction in the
Mm-hmm.
room, um, coming as their world felt more settled. Um, and kind of just a little background, uh, parents were, it's really interesting. From the outside, you would not know there was trouble at home for the parents, but what came out in therapy is that they were really struggling in the husband-wife relationship, and we're talking about separation and some other stuff. And so during
Oh,
our
I
time
felt yeah.
together, they did separate, and then they did get a divorce, right? And I think that actually brought some
Yeah.
predictability. There was not as much fighting. There's not, right? And so we started to see that kind of come out in the play space as well, for this kiddo. And so just very interesting. The kid had also, the kid was a preschooler, um, and had been expelled from two preschools
Yeah.
when they got, so, because they had the last, they came right after the last expulsion from preschool, when they flipped the teacher's desk and made the classroom chaotic and
Chaotic.
destructive and, right, a whirlwind of that ensued behind this kiddo. And so that's what brought them, and at 3 and 4, you don't think they can flip a teacher's desk, but and so
They're
I'm like,
strong.
trauma, what is going on in this for this kiddo that would get them to that level of a reaction?
Mm-hmm.
Um, right. And so at home was just chaotic. And so slowly, yes, so they might tip everything, but they would not tip the basket of dollhouse furnitures and dolls. That was the first item I remember staying on the shelf.
Mm-hmm.
It also has the most little
Interesting.
pieces. And then it was the art area that didn't have as many little pieces.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing that was really interesting for this kiddo is that they did not have a lot of awareness of their body in space. And
Yeah.
right, so they would step on something and you could hear something crunch, and when they started to gain awareness that that was destroying things, right? So I saw subtle shifts. They weren't these big grandiose shifts, they were these subtle things that were happening. um for those of you asking, I did not change my playroom. I did not have less materials. I didn't remove any items from the playroom.
Mm-hmm.
um, I did and would say, things about toys are not for destroying. I would attempt, to put some parameters around it, but this chaos was really needed by this kiddo to even be able to function in
Mm-hmm.
space, which was a really interesting conversation I got to have with the parents,
Yeah.
monthly or every 6-week parent consultation about what's really happening. They only
Mm-hmm.
came and shared things once I kind of pushed into the space of
What's going on?
keep saying everything's great at home, but something feels, so and so is trying to mimic things that are happening in their home life in the playroom, and that looks chaotic, destructive. And
Mm-hmm.
that's when they started to really share about the turmoil in their relationship. And they didn't think the kids noticed. They tried to only fight when the kids were in bed, right? And then they truly did not each other. And so even if they weren't fighting, their day-to-day interactions may not have been warm and relational, right?
Mm-hmm.
So even the undercurrents, and kids are so perceptive to those undercurrents that we try to hide from them, were showing up, and it felt unpredictable to this kiddo. Um, and that's what showed up in the playroom.
Yeah. I think, as you were talking about not limiting stuff, I did have one instance where I limited a little bit, but I want to be really clear of how I did it.
Yeah.
So there had to be limits, right? So I had a child that really was struggling with attachment and unpredictability in attachment. And so in an adoption, and they would never want to come to the playroom. This was at the Child and Family. And so they would run around all this clinic.
Circle.
Mm-hmm. There's a
The
big
clinic, the
circle,
clinic had it
like a square, and you could just
call it
like,
a lollipop. All the
yeah,
clinical rooms were at the top, and it was a big square, but you could run the whole path, almost a little
track.
track, right? But then
Mm-hmm.
if you came down the stick, that's where the waiting room and the entrance and stuff were.
Right. And I understand that this stuff is not possible if you are in a private practice or you're alone in spaces. More than likely, your space wouldn't be this big. But we started having to have people posted in each corner. So kind of shepherd the child into the room. And then there's just a lot of paint, a lot of, each hand. And okay, if you choose, your hands and your feet, you're welcome to paint. If you choose to do that, you choose to wipe your hands before you know, play with the other toys. So lots of limit that. But they would always pour the bubbles on the floor.
Mm.
And what's really, despite the limit, and we had linoleum tile. And so it becomes really slippery and it's really hard to clean up. And so it caused me a lot of discomfort and incongruence within the session. And so coming to supervision, it's driving me crazy. I don't know what's going on. Okay, so what's happening, right?
Yeah.
And so trying to understand myself, and I think it was Dr. Bratton, and she's, well, what if you just put less bubbles, right? Instead of having the whole thing. And I was like, oh my God, duh.
Oh, yeah. I've also, if a kid has, so in my playroom, please know I come from the working in the hospital, and infection control is like a huge ordeal. And one of the things that I learned early in my career as a child specialist before I became a play therapist is that Play-Doh is one of the most porous and infection control nightmares that you can have. And right, it's just automatically going to spread germs from person to person. So in my play spaces, each kid has their own container of Play-Doh.
Oh, you let I
So
don't
I
even bring.
label, so
Oh,
it's labeled. And please know you have to know if they have allergies, because Play-Doh does have latex in it. So you have to look. So that's another thing to be thoughtful of. But so each container has the child's initials on it. So their Play-Doh comes out into the playroom. This is really influenced by my experience. And then when the pandemic happened, it just reinforced
yeah.
this. we really need to have, some of these items need to be individual for kids. But
And
if a
I
kid,
can't stand Play-Doh. So that's not one. I have Model Magic, but I will not. Play-Doh, the smell of it makes me sick.
yeah, no, I love the smell of Play-Doh. That's so funny. And it has to be Play-Doh, Play-Doh. I don't any of the rose art or anything like that. I just don't find that it lasts as long.
Yeah.
Anything that's totally a different tangent.
But
Um, but if they mix two colors together, that's what they have in their containers. The same containers come out the next week. And so I have also, for my kiddos who love to dump bubbles,
mhm,
right? I'll refill it for other kids or get a new container. But when this kid comes, if it's a perpetual problem and limit setting is not working, I may that the bubble juice doesn't kind of get refilled.
right.
That might be punitive in nature, but it's also just a fact that if you dump all the bubbles out intentionally, right, if you pour them in there, that they may not be back. Water is available, there's other materials available, but the bubble juice, because it is so slippery, especially on linoleum floors,
Mhm,
it's really dangerous. And although you can get the liquid up, there's still a film. You really kind of
mhm.
have
It
to
is
mop
hard.
and
You have to mop.
you have to mop to get the residue out with lots of water, right? Which then makes it has to dry before the night. It does become a
Yeah.
little labor intensive. So yes, the idea of limiting, and please know
And
I limited water too.
limit
My playroom does
water.
not have a water faucet in it. And so what I have is I have a small water bottle and it has a line. And same with glue. I only have
Mhm,
the little glue bottle and it has a line and it only gets refilled to the line each week or each session.
right?
Because my experience has been kids will use as much glue that's in the bottle, kids will use as much water that's in the bottle. And if the idea is, you only
Mhm.
need a little bit, it can help control some of
That
that for
chaos.
us so it doesn't
Yeah.
feel as chaotic.
Paint too. Don't have full things of paint. You have a
No,
little bit of paint
goes a
because
long way.
yeah, and those are I think kind of tips and tricks that we've figured out from our experience and being in the spaces. Another thing that especially for kids who, like, just want to kind of go and there's no limit and they need lots of stuff. So limiting the glue because if they were going to do glue, they'd pour the whole thing or they'd paint, all of this up. I don't allow glitter in my space because when you want to
Glitter
dump
glue. I
glitter
only use
glue is
glitter glue.
fine.
Yeah.
Glitter glue is a whole different story. But I've got upstairs I was formerly the president of the Virginia Association of Play Therapy, and someone wanted glitter for the conference, and I have a whole play therapy bag, just of little glitter vials. And even my kids are like, "Oh, you don't do that." And I'm like,
Like the STD of the craft world. Glitter. Once it comes out of the container, it's going to be
"You cannot
everywhere. It's hard to
put it
contain.
back, right?" And so just kind
Yeah.
of thinking about those things
But I've
because
also,
they want to be chaotic. I don't want to limit what they need to do in the space by my anxiety about the materials.
yeah. The other thing I was going to say is just your supplies in general, your craft supplies. You don't need the whole box of pom-poms out. A kid just needs a few of each of a few pipe cleaners, a few beads, a few, and I know it's hard sometimes to want to limit that, but I don't know that abundance meets their needs, right? And gosh, what a great reflection that I can give if abundance is their need. They are just always wanting more of something. If there's always more there, it's harder for me to reflect that than when there's not more there. And then I can really lean into that idea of
Right.
abundance that's always seeking, right? Things just
Right.
not always working out or blah, blah, blah.
Well, and I think too, a lot of times people are, how is this even grounded in reality? But that's a great way that that's grounded in reality is that there's not always an unlimited supply of everything. It's very rarely an unlimited supply. And it can be frustrating, especially in a time of, we have Amazon now where you can get what you want within like 24 hours. And so really recognizing, oh man, you're so frustrated. You really wanted more of that.
Yeah.
You're really upset that there's not more. You want whatever that may be. And and really, I think if we kind of like the overarching kind of things is how can you prepare the space so that you can remain calm and focused how are you able to take breaths? I think another thing that to think about, especially once you get to know kids, and if that is a really chaotic space, or that their needs not necessarily chaotic in the play in which they're doing, but like in creating chaos within the playroom, is how can you schedule? Is it possible for you to schedule them so you have a break after? Or who, are there other people within the practice that can help you clean up?
Yeah.
And how can you prepare for that so that it doesn't, because what you don't want is to start to resent it.
Well, and I in consultation have talked to people about maybe even shortening their sessions a little
Right.
bit.
Mm-hmm.
So if the traditional session is, if you're going by insurance, right, 53 minutes, and a kid gets really messy, right, maybe shortening it to 45. So you have an extra 8 minutes to tidy up the playroom to get it back for the next kid.
Mm-hmm.
Um, or if it's a 45-minute session, bringing it down to 40 or even 35, 38 minutes. So you have that a little bit of time. That's a little harder with billing purposes for
Mm-hmm.
insurance. And so I do want to acknowledge that. Um, but also letting parents understand why that's happening. I don't
Mm-hmm.
want to limit your child. And, this is a functioning clinic and I need the session to be ready. And so I want to give them the space to be able to express these components that they're really feeling. And then, right. But in doing that, I'm going to need a little extra time. The other thing I tend to do is my super messy kids are my very last kids of the night, which is
And
hard. And I'm going to
because you
say,
might
because
be
I'm
burnt out by that point.
also really tired at that point. And so,
Mm-hmm.
right. But, or putting them first thing in the morning if they
That's
get,
right.
my first appointment. But then I have to put a buffer space so
Yeah.
that I can get ready for the rest, and recoup myself to be able to go in.
Mm-hmm.
Maggie, am I able to show a picture really quick?
Sure.
I just want to show you.
Yeah.
So this is at the end of a session. This is for a kid who was really controlled the whole session, and at the very last 10 minutes, it is a video, so I'm just going to roll it through so you can see the level, but almost every single material you can see, but even over towards my couch and stuff, flipping cushions, taking the easel and pulling all the paper off the easel.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of nice and
Yeah.
messy, and so much so, I think it's at the end of the video. Hold on, I'm gonna do it really quick. So dizzy moment. Yeah, here we go. Got feeling so out of control for the first time ever. Drew on my walls.
Oh, yeah.
I'd never done that before.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing that was really interesting for this kiddo, I'm gonna stop sharing, is prior to that, they taped. They took the
Mm-hmm.
tape and wrapped it all the way around all the
Mm-hmm.
whole playroom. Everything that they could connect together was wrapped in tape. So this video was after I had untaped everything.
Taped it all. Yeah.
Um, Scotch tape was connected to and it was very sweet because the
Yeah.
client got it all set and done,
Yeah.
and realized they didn't know how to move in the space because they had taped so many things together that you could not move, right? So feeling very
Yeah.
contained, restricted, that came out.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a kiddo, this is a kiddo I've seen for a while. And what was happening was the stressor of school felt like a pressure cooker to her. And so
Mm-hmm.
she felt she was gonna explode. For this went on for about 4 sessions, so about a month,
Yeah.
that we saw this level of messiness. And then it dissipated. We
Yeah.
didn't see it again. It was here and it was gone.
Yeah.
Uh, so that's the other thing. When we say it's unpredictable, it really can be. We can see it and we cannot.
Well, and here's one.
Yeah.
And there's so much already. I feel there's a little bit of chaos just in the room in general. And this actually is demonstrating a lot
Yeah.
because it used to be every shelf, markers, everything, all of the food items and utensils and everything. And this is really a limited amount. And so it did feel chaotic in the moment, and like reflecting all of that, but the amount of restraint and growth that occurred. Because it is, I think for me, also, if you're looking at this picture, there's little things of pasta really hard to remember and then pick up everything. And the worst is if you don't realize that something's in the sandbox. It's like really having to comb through everything. And I think remembering when there is growth, because sometimes it can be difficult to see when it feels everything is just being thrown, but there is less. And what does that mean for the child? And how is this benefiting the child? And really trying to allow them those opportunities to express what they're experiencing, and also grounding in reality, right? We're not for hurting. They're not for hurting. Toys aren't for hurting. And I think in that one case that I shared, that also our relationship is really important. And so if I'm struggling, one, that's on me. I need to figure that out and I need to go to consultation. But in that moment, it was really tough because I got hurt real bad.
I know.
Didn't feel good.
And sometimes I need consultation to be able to do that.
Oh, 100%.
Right. And I need someone to call me on what are you wanting from this kid? Sounds like you come in with an expectation of that kid, or you're able to cure this kid in one session. What is that about?
Or how are you understanding this child? And so you can change that understanding. And that really helps me with the empathy, which then helps me with the focus and the attunement. And it's so important. But all right, you have meetings, you have a big conference coming.
I do. Not when this goes live, but we're hosting a big conference here in Charlotte next week. If you have any topics, things that you want us to talk about, we are about to jump on a series on child-centered therapy skills and ways of being, which we're really excited about. We're going to break them down step by step, and really kind of talk about the purpose of them all, what our hope is in working with kids, as well as what does this look in a real session, being able to respond to kids, how we might utilize each of the different skills and how we are with kids. And so, and hopefully we'll have some additional resources that we're working on to help supplement you as either a supervisor, as a clinician, as a parent, to have better understanding. We're trying to really do a wide swath there for you. So please tune in because we are going to start to revamp our website and some other stuff. So
and make sure go to playtherapyspace.com because you can join the mailing list. And so then you can receive some of these things, and we'll be keeping you up to date as to what we're doing. So,
and that's where those resources will be held on our website, playtherapyspace.com. And you'll start to see we're going to shift things a little bit. So Maggie and I have been behind the scenes trying to organize or conceptualize some of the topics that we're talking about a little differently. And so we're putting a book together for it's called Playful Beginnings. And you'll see our podcast labeled in chapters, and each chapter has a different theme. So be on the lookout for that. We're
trying to control the chaos.
Right, our own chaos, our own squirrel moments as podcasters, but we're excited for what's coming. And so please tune in, share with your friends, and don't forget to like and subscribe.
Thank you, Kristie.
Bye, Maggie. Have an awesome day.
Bye.
Bye.